If someone were to peek into my life from the outside, they'd likely envy it. A house with a trimmed lawn. A husband who pays the bills. A son who grew up right. Picture perfect. But that's all it is, pictures. Glossy, curated stills of a life that hasn't breathed in years. It's July now, the air thick with heat and silence. My husband left for his mother's house yesterday. Again. He says she's lonely, that she needs him more now. But sometimes I wonder if he goes there to forget me. Or worse, because she reminds him of a woman who still makes him feel needed. I won't lie. It eats at me. Sometimes I want to shake him and scream, "What about me?" But I don't. Instead, I slip into silence, into sundresses that cling to me more tightly than his arms ever do, into cold showers and long stares at myself in the mirror, wondering when I stopped being seen. Then a text.
Just as I sat down with my coffee this morning.
Landing in 2 hours.
Can't wait to see you, Mom.
Love you. My pulse quickened. My son, 24 now. Independent, grounded, nothing like his father. He has this quiet depth, like he sees through the noise and finds the truth you didn't even know you were hiding. He took a vacation from work and chose to spend it here. With me. I tell myself it's normal. That I'm just excited because it's been a while. But deep down, I know it's more than that. When the doorbell rings, my heart skips like it used to in high school. I open it, and there he is, taller than I remember, a tan brushing his jaw, his eyes soft with warmth. "Hey, Mom," he says, and suddenly I forget all the things I wanted to hide. We fall into an easy rhythm those first few hours. He drops his bag in the guest room but doesn't stay in there long. We sit on the patio, the sun blistering above us, drinking iced tea like we're in some old Southern novel. We talk about his job, his apartment, his stupid neighbor's dog. He makes me laugh. Really laugh. And then, like always, he notices something most people wouldn't. "You okay?" he asks, his brow pulling together the way it always does when he's reading me too well. I look down at my glass, the condensation dripping onto my thigh. "I'm fine." I lie, not convincingly. He doesn't press, just nods, and changes the subject. But later, as we clean up from dinner and he brushes past me at the sink, his arm touches mine, and I freeze. Not because it was accidental,
But because it didn't feel that way.
I tell myself it's nothing, that I'm imagining things, that I'm just touch-starved and too in my head. But when I look up and catch his eyes lingering, something stirs. It's quick. A flicker. Gone before I can name it. Still, it stays with me. That night, I lie awake in bed, the ceiling fan doing little to push the heat away. I listen to the soft creaks of the house, to his footsteps down the hall when he gets up to grab a drink. I hear the fridge open, the clink of ice, and then quiet, until a soft knock comes at my bedroom door. I sit up. "Mom," his voice is hushed. "You still awake?" I hesitate. My throat feels dry. "Yes," I say, and the door opens. He's standing there in just a t-shirt and flannel pants, his hair tousled from sleep, a glass in hand. "Couldn't sleep," he mutters, stepping in. "Too hot." I nod, suddenly aware of the thinness of my nightgown, of how the room feels different now. He walks to the edge of my bed, sits without asking. For a moment, we say nothing. The only sound is the fan above us spinning, spinning, spinning. "You ever think about leaving him?" he asks quietly. I blink. "What?" "Dad," he clarifies. "Do you ever think about leaving him?" My breath catches. "I don't know," I whisper. "Maybe. Sometimes." His voice drops. "You deserve more, you know. You always did." The way he looks at me then, there's no boy in that gaze. Only a man. And something else. Something neither of us dares to name. The air is heavy again. But this time not just from the heat. I don't know how long we sat in that thick silence, him at the edge of my bed, me pretending not to feel the weight of every heartbeat echoing in my chest. Then, out of nowhere, he said it. You know what would get his attention? I tilted my head. What? He gave a crooked smile, almost playful. A photo.
Of us.
Here. In bed. Looking cozy. I laughed, sharp and too quick. You're joking. He shrugged, standing to set his glass down on the nightstand beside my bed. It's just a picture. But think about it. If he sees you with someone he doesn't expect, it might shake him up. Might make him realize what he's ignoring. My breath caught in my throat. I looked at him, really looked at him.
My son.
But not the boy who used to need nightlights and bedtime stories. This was the man he'd become. Confident, bold, and disturbingly persuasive. That's ridiculous, I said, but even to my own ears, the words sounded soft.
Weak.
You don't even have to tag me, he said with a wink, already picking up his phone. Just let him wonder. He sat beside me again, this time close enough that our legs touched. I felt the heat from his skin through the cotton of my gown. He raised his arm, phone poised, and I should have stopped him. I should have said no. But I didn't. I leaned into him. Just a little. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders, letting it rest low across my back. I could feel his breath, steady and slow. And then he took the shot. Just one. He showed it to me. The image looked wrong. Too intimate. My head rested near his collarbone, the neckline of my gown just visible. His face calm, confident. Protective. It didn't scream anything, but it suggested everything. I'll post it, I whispered. As a joke. He didn't answer, only watched me as I uploaded it to Facebook with a short caption. Grateful for surprises this summer. Yellow heart. Within minutes, the likes rolled in. Curious comments. Private messages. But I only checked for one thing. My husband. He saw it. The next morning, I woke to a missed call from him. No message. Just a notification that he'd viewed the post 3 times. It worked. But I didn't tell him anything. I didn't explain. Let him wonder. That afternoon, my son came up behind me in the kitchen while I was slicing fruit. He slid an arm around my waist with ease, his chin grazing my shoulder. I filled the pool, he murmured. Water's perfect. I stiffened. The pool. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. You've been saying for years you never use it. Time to change that. I want to see you in something bright. Something happy.
I didn't respond. My throat felt dry.
And then he added, unless you're too scared. That teasing grin again. That spark in his gaze. I'm not scared, I replied, setting the knife down and turning away before he could see the flush creeping into my cheeks. In my room, I opened the drawer where my swimsuits had gathered dust. The one I pulled out was navy, simple but snug. It reminded me of who I used to be. Someone daring. Someone who danced in the rain instead of watching from the porch. When I stepped outside, towel over my shoulders, he was already in the pool. Water gleamed across his chest, and his hair was slicked back, eyes closed toward the sun. He looked peaceful, almost too much so. He turned when he heard me. His smile lit up. That, he said, eyes traveling the length of me, is exactly what I meant. The water was cool on my skin, a welcome relief from the thick July heat. But it didn't ease the ache building inside me. We laughed.
Played.
He splashed me once, and I chased him through the shallows like we were kids again. But it wasn't like childhood. Not anymore. Not with the way his eyes lingered. Not with the way mine returned the favor. Later, I dried off, and while wrapping my towel around my shoulders, I checked my phone. A message blinked at the top. From my husband. Who is that in the photo? No greeting. No emojis. No concern, just suspicion. I stared at the screen, pulse steady but heavy. I typed, just someone visiting. And sent it. No more. No less. When I looked up, my son was watching me from the shade. his expression unreadable. And I realized something dangerous was happening. The heat outside was nothing compared to what was building between us. "You should wear blue more often," he said, floating nearby in the pool, his voice rich with that lazy July smoothness. "It makes your eyes look dangerous." I arched a brow. Dangerous? He drifted closer, water rippling around him. Like you could ruin someone's life just by looking at them the wrong way. I laughed, a little too loud, a little too breathless. "That's an intense compliment." He shrugged with a grin. "Well, you look intense today." I leaned against the pool's edge, elbows up, trying to keep things light, but he wasn't helping. He swam close again, closer than I expected, close enough to feel the temperature change from his body heat under the water. His eyes locked on mine, and that same tension, hotter than the sun itself, wound itself around us again. I needed to cut it, change the subject, do something. So I said, "I want a photo with you." He blinked. "A photo?" I nodded, smiling.
"Yes."
"One for my page. One where I look, well, like someone whose friends will be jealous." There was a flicker of amusement in his eyes, and something else. Jealous. "I mean, look at you," I said, gesturing vaguely to the water, his tan, the way he moved like he belonged in the heat. "You look like a movie star who just showed up to rescue me from my boring life." He gave a lopsided grin. "So, you want to show me off?" "I want to show off," I corrected, my tone deliberately light. "The context is up to interpretation." Without asking, he swam to the pool ladder, climbed out with that effortless grace, then offered his hand to me. "Come on, let's give them a photo they won't forget." He led me over to the loungers, our drinks already waiting. He had somehow made cocktails from whatever was left in the liquor cabinet, garnished with lime slices and that playful smile. "You mix these?" I asked, sipping. 2 years of bartending during college. "You think I just looked good behind the counter?" I laughed.
"No."
"I think you looked dangerous."
He smirked. "Told you."
We lounged in the sun, the alcohol teasing warmth into our limbs, the heat rising not just from the rays, but from how close we were. His shoulder brushed mine occasionally, accidentally, though neither of us apologized. His compliments came like waves, each one leaving a little mark on me. "You know, if I were 20 years older," he said, sipping his drink, "I'd have to fight off everyone I know to get a shot with you." I rolled my eyes. "Please." "I'm serious. You think you're just mom, but if you saw what I saw." I tilted my head toward him. "And what do you see?" He looked at me for a long second, the teasing giving way to something more grounded. Someone who forgot how much power she has. The silence between us thickened, neither of us daring to break it, until I said, almost too casually, "You know what might really get his attention?" He raised an eyebrow. "A photo," I murmured, "from the pool. But without your face." Just enough to make him wonder again. A grin broke across his face, equal parts mischief and heat. "Now that's the energy I like." He reached for his phone again.
"Come on."
Back in the water. "Let's make it look like you've got company." Mysterious company. I stood, feeling the alcohol buzz in my veins, the summer heat wrapping around me like silk. As I slipped back into the pool, he followed, and once again we were suspended in that strange, electric calm. He took the shot with precision, his arm around my waist, both of us in the shallows, the water glistening on our skin. His face cropped just enough to be invisible, but the intimacy between us unmistakable. It looked like something that shouldn't have been shared. And that's exactly why I posted it. Second day of surprises. I didn't tag anyone. 10 minutes later, my husband texted again. "Who is it? Are you seeing someone?" I didn't answer. I only smiled and slid my phone into a towel, then turned back to the one person who was still beside me. He raised his drink, clinking it lightly against mine. "To surprises," he said. And I couldn't help but wonder just how far we'd let this one go. We didn't speak much after the post. We didn't have to. The look on my face in that photo, the arch of my body against his, the way his arm encircled me just beneath the waterline, was enough to send the message. And now, every word between us hung in the air with weight. Every glance carried possibilities. I was still floating on that tension when he swam up behind me again, slow and silent. Suddenly, I felt his hands grip my thighs. "Hold on," he whispered, and without another word, he dipped slightly beneath me and lifted me up, my body sliding across his shoulders, my legs gripping around his chest like instinct. He surged forward through the water with a playful growl, carrying me like some kind of human dolphin. I gasped, laughing, clinging tighter, the sun on my back and his strength beneath me. But it wasn't just laughter that filled me. It was something deeper, wilder. I felt the flex of his muscles with every movement, felt his breath warm on my thigh when he surfaced again. And for a moment, I let myself forget. Forget the rules. Forget the roles. Forget the world. The laughter died in my throat when I realized how tightly I had clung to him. My chest pressed to his back. My legs wrapped around his waist. My cheek near the curve of his neck. The tension snapped taut like a string pulled too tight. And maybe that's why I did what I did next. Maybe I just needed to breathe. I let out a soft groan, my hand fluttering to my forehead. I think the heat's getting to me," I murmured, just loud enough for him to hear. He stopped paddling, his arms still beneath me. "Are you serious?" I gave a slight nod, feigning dizziness, though my heart was thundering too hard to call it acting. The look in his eyes changed instantly, from mischief to concern. He guided me gently to the side of the pool, cradling me as if I weighed nothing. Then, without asking, he scooped me into his arms and stepped out of the water, droplets falling from us both like a veil. "I'll get you in the shade," he said, his voice low but urgent. He carried me across the patio, toward the far corner of our yard, the one where the bushes grow tall and no neighbor windows can see in, where the sun filters through just enough to warm the skin but not burn it. He lowered me onto a lounger, his hands supporting my head like it was something delicate. "Precious. You okay?" he whispered, brushing a damp strand of hair from my cheek. I kept my eyes half-lidded, my breath shallow. "Maybe a little dizzy," I said. His brow creased. "You're not breathing right." Then he did something I wasn't ready for. He leaned in, closer. One hand cupped my jaw, the other slid gently behind my neck. "Just in case," he murmured. And then he tilted my head slightly and brought his lips down, just above mine. His breath moved over my mouth. Soft. Controlled. A simulation. A line barely crossed. Or completely shattered. I couldn't tell anymore. He was giving me artificial respiration. Or at least that's what I told myself as I felt the warmth of him flood into me. As I let the back of my hand rest against his arm, my fingers lightly tracing the line of his muscle. "I'm okay," I whispered but didn't move. He didn't pull away either. Not right away. His forehead pressed gently against mine. "You scared me," he said, voice low, barely more than a breath. "Don't do that again." My heart was a storm inside my chest. The air smelled like citrus and salt, and something I didn't have a name for. We stayed like that, suspended in the kind of silence that only exists when something important has just changed. I should have pulled away. I should have laughed it off, said I was fine, gotten up and gone inside. But instead, I looked into his eyes, so close, so calm, and whispered, "I won't scare you again." And I meant it, even if I didn't yet know what that promise would cost me. The shade wrapped around us like a secret, warm and protective, shielding us from everything except each other. He was still kneeling beside me, his breath shallow, his hands hesitant near my shoulders as if afraid I'd fade. I could see it all over his face, The worry, the adrenaline, the confusion tangled up in something far more dangerous. Hope. I reached out slowly, my hand resting lightly on his forearm. Lie down.
He blinked.
What? Next to me, I said, voice soft. Just lie here. It's okay. He hesitated only for a second. Then he nodded and climbed onto the lounger beside me, water still glistening on his skin. He lay on his side, facing me, his expression cautious, unsure if this was still part of the game or something entirely new. We were inches apart. The breeze shifted the towel beneath us, but nothing else moved. Not even us. I lifted my hand, gently placing it on his cheek, letting my thumb graze the stubble that had begun to shadow his jaw. His breath caught. I felt the muscles in his face tense, then slowly soften beneath my touch. There's something I should tell you, I murmured.
He didn't speak.
Just stared into my eyes like he was bracing for a confession he wasn't sure he wanted. I wasn't dizzy, I said. Not really. His lips parted slightly. I was pretending, I admitted, my voice no louder than the breeze. I just didn't know what else to do. It all felt too much. The air stilled. I felt his heart beating. Whether through the space between us or in sync with my own, I couldn't tell. And then, before I could say anything else, before I could ask what we were doing or why this felt like falling and floating all at once, he kissed me. No hesitation. No pause for permission. His hand slid up, cradling the side of my neck, and his lips met mine with a kind of urgency that stripped the silence bare. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't accidental. It wasn't curious. It was the kind of kiss that came from holding back too long. I should have pulled away, should have said something, but I didn't, because I had wanted it too. My fingers curled around his wrist as I kissed him back, gently at first, then deeper, the edge of the lounger creaking slightly beneath us. His palm was warm on my skin, and everything, the pool, the sky, the fence beyond the garden, blurred. When we finally broke apart, we didn't speak. We just lay there, breathing the same heavy air, eyes wide open. What are we doing? I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked at me for a long time. And then he answered with the most honest words I'd heard in years. Exactly what we've both been needing. The kiss left my lips tingling, my thoughts scattered like dry leaves in the summer wind. He was still beside me, his fingers slowly retreating from my skin as if afraid the moment might vanish if he moved too fast. But it was already real. It had happened. And now there was no turning back. I sat up slightly on the lounger, wrapping the towel tighter around me, not out of shame, but to protect myself from how exposed I suddenly felt. His eyes never left mine. They were steady, certain, as if he had been waiting for this moment longer than I had dared to admit. You're quiet, he said finally, voice low. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Then don't, he said. Just listen. I nodded. He sat up too, elbows on his knees, his shoulders still damp from the pool. For the first time, he didn't look like my son. He didn't even look like a boy anymore. He looked like a man with a plan. You don't have to stay with him, he said softly. You don't have to keep pretending everything is fine just because it's what the world expects. I blinked, my throat tightening. It's not that simple. It is, he replied. You're not happy. You haven't been in a long time. And I know you've tried. I've seen it. But nothing changes. And he doesn't see you. Not the way I do. His voice trembled at the edges then, like the words had waited years to be spoken. You shouldn't have to shrink to be loyal to someone who doesn't even notice when you're fading. My heart clenched. You deserve to laugh again. To wake up and feel wanted, not tolerated. I looked at him, every part of me trembling. Not from fear, but from how deeply the truth struck. Then he said it. Come with me. Before he gets back. Leave before he even steps foot through that door. I stared at him. I have space, he continued, his words rushing now like a tide rolling in. You've seen the place. 2 bedrooms, big windows, a balcony with morning sun. You love that. You said so when I first moved in. I remember, I said, my voice a whisper. You could move in.
Just for a while.
Just until you figure things out. He was trying to sound casual, but his hands were clenched, his voice full of something fragile. You could be free. The word hit me harder than anything else.
Free.
It echoed inside my chest, chasing away the years I had spent in a house that had grown colder with each passing summer. A marriage that had stopped being a partnership and become a performance. I looked down at my hands, at the tan line where my wedding ring should have been. I hadn't worn it in weeks. I wondered if he'd even noticed. I'd have to pack, I murmured. We'll do it together, he said instantly. Just the essentials. My breath hitched. He'll call. Let him. He'll come back. Let him find an empty house, he said. Let him finally notice what he took for granted. Silence fell again. But it wasn't empty. It was heavy with decision. I turned to him, my eyes searching his face. You're really asking me to leave everything?
No, he said.
I'm asking you to choose yourself. And maybe to choose me. My heart thundered. And for the first time in years, I wondered what it would feel like to start over, not alone, but with someone who already saw the parts of me I thought were gone.